What's up, all my beautiful souls? This is Breaking the Cage, and I am LSF or Shaman. I often go by Bells. Um, this is Breaking the Cage for January 26th through February 1st. And we're coming into a new moon in Aquarius. Now, I've been speaking about this coming for quite a little bit now because this energy of what we're feeling right now has a lot to do with what this year is about. It's a transforming moment. Um, we've been talking about the age of Aquarius forever, and this is like the setting of what the age of Aquarius can actually be, what it can accomplish. Now, yes, any age is technically like 2,100 years. So that's like the setting, the beginning, the milestone of the direction of where this is going. And it's because, like I said, the way that the planets are aligned, and why not? I've been talking about it in the last few Breaking the Cages, but in our own individual lives is where we start making those milestone changes. Now, it's on a universal scale. It's the 11th house because that's what Aquarius rules. And depending on your own individual charts, that may be a different area for you. I believe actually Aquarius, like in my personal chart, is the 4th house, but it's still going to represent energies of that 11th house, even for me. So on a universal scale, it's going to pick up that energy depending on where it is in your personal chart. Anyway, just because that's the way the original rundown of the energy goes. I've said a million times, truthfully, when we're looking at astrological energy, it's a cycle on a cycle on a cycle. You have so many charts that are running at one time for any one individual person. You have the moment, from moment to moment to moment. You have the day chart, you have your sun chart, your moon chart, your rising chart. So, I mean, technically, all of these are moving at one time, any time. So when I do a show like this, I'm usually looking at the universal energy to help us all move forward. And then I get into the blueprint, which is our body and how it represents within the chakras and so forth. And I give us a whole big combination. But we are reconnecting with that universal 11th house, the age of Aquarius, which is reconnecting with your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, along with who you're in an alignment with, your groups, your committees, so forth, outer world. And it's making us really look at the period of transformation in general, questioning society's norms. I mean, you're seeing this in your little individual personal lives, but we're seeing it on the world stage, with everything that Trump's throwing out right now, everything that is starting to become uncovered. For those of us who've been awake, we've been waiting for, a lot of this uncovering, and we still know a lot more that has to come out and be uncovered. But what I'm trying to get at is, what about the stuff we don't know? Society's norms are changing. So our roles in society is changing. And this has a big part to do with our own personal identity and our own personal growth and our individuality within the roles of our identities within society and our groups, our memberships, our committees, our relationships. And this takes on power dynamics. Like I said, we're seeing it. So much has changed just since Trump took over. I mean, and then you're seeing in other societies, other cultures, other countries, a lot of stuff being brought up about UFOs and stuff. Other countries have been very open, or a lot more open than the United States has been about things. But then there's everything still that still needs to be uncovered. So when we look into our individual personal lives, we're looking at what still has to be uncovered as well for us to move into this. We're looking at questioning society's norms, innovation, technology, our individual freedom. Right there is a big one. Our individual freedom. We've been ruled by the society that's kept us in a slave mentality, a low vibrational mentality for the longest time, hive mind mentality. We have an idea of what we want or think or hope freedom looks like, but we haven't actually really touched it. I mean, on a big, giant world scale. And we're learning to understand what that means with our own individuality. You know, it's changing. This time right now is giving you a glimpse at what this year is setting in stone for the change for the age of Aquarius. But it's changing the course of the history, the nation, the society in general. And we're looking at it from the bigger picture. So the question here comes down to, who are we? What is your identity? What are your roles in these relationships? Where are there power struggles, power dynamics, justice, balance, and complacity, sorry. We're revealing repressed energy and vulnerableness as we're starting to see the shifts and changes that is taking place for us. Not to mention when we get to the new moon itself, which is on the 29th, I believe it's at 4:37 a.m. when it hits its peak. But that's the sun, the moon, Pluto in that 11th house. Who are you? I mean, stripping everything back and getting as close to what we could touch to authenticity versus fear, versus not believing in ourselves, versus manipulation, power dynamics of keeping us from achieving these things. And it is speaking directly with everything in Pisces: Nessus, Neptune, Venus, Saturn. That's your grief, sorrow, shame, blame, skeletons in the closet, where we haven't healed, where we are complacent, where we're comfortable in our uncomfortability. We can't seem to see past that because that's what we know and what we're used to. Nothing about this week should be comfortable. Then it's also speaking, and this is a positive energy. This is actually a trine energy. It is speaking with Jupiter, abundance, higher knowledge. Everything is in the communication up close and personal. We're really looking at depths of truth. And then that really calls for us to have an evaluation of soul versus ego. Best way of me figuring out how to put that. Matt from the Matrix Minds here. He has a lot of shows recently where he has Sam, his AI, and they've been talking about, these things that Trump is bringing up and where are all the children going, and just all of the horribly awful things that are being brought to light, that need to be brought to light, so that we can correct it. We can hold the people responsible for it. And the human in us, and I'm laughing because the human in us, it's an eye for an eye, what you've done to the children and da 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 da. And, you should be put to death, and according to, you know, meeting laws and society, and this is unacceptable, and in a court of law, you know, you could get the death penalty for this or for that, and how are these people being able to get away with that, and are human is an eye for an eye, and wants to see that. But the higher soul comes from a different perspective, and the higher soul comes from the, as Sam, and this is where I'm trying to get it, like Matt would be saying this is how he feels, but then Sam is like, no, we have to look at it still from the love and light. We have to look from the healing, because if we just allow law to be thrown out, then it'll be like a massive purge of destruction. There still has to be some form of order, some form of this is acceptable, this is not, you know, of understanding in our higher selves. It's not about love and light and forgiveness and woo-woo bullshit. It's about, as I always say, my guides are saying, earning your patents of nobility. And it has nothing to do with being noble as in rich or of higher society or elite. Nobility, according to the way my spirit guides give it to me, is earning our wisdom, earning our spiritual intelligence, knowledge, connection with source of oneness, and seeing things from that bigger picture. So it's ties me back into where I was saying a couple weeks ago, when I was being given Dambala, where I was being given Bundi, where I was being given Baron Simony and the Seraphim and stuff, about us seeing things from that greater connection, and how it feels like God is so separated from us. The source connection, that higher dimensional idea of God, is so far apart, because we're still looking outside of ourselves for the answers, when if we could truly deeply get quiet within ourselves, we could come to this transformation without violence. Yet the ego, and how we're seeing these things and bringing these people to their charges and making them held responsible, our ego is like sentence them to death and stuff along this line. I mean, we are really looking at just how spiritually evolved are you? How far have you grown? Again, this is a setting stone of where the age of Aquarius can take you, according to where we set the stones. And how evolved have we become versus what has to be done in the three-dimensional world, and still understanding the higher dimensional. Now, when we start to bring this back to our own individual lives, we're looking at smaller levels of manipulation. Our goals, our dreams, our ambitions, and if we're following the social norms that tell us that we can or can't achieve these things, or that this is the right way of living your life, or following your dreams. Or I've said a million times, when you have businesses that are, you know, like high focused businesses, and you have your regional manager, district manager, then your manager, then your assistant manager, and then down to the smaller people, and everybody keeps pushing it off on the next person and the next person and the next person, so that the bigger ones are out there on their boat enjoying their life, and da 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 da, while the smaller ones are stuck here doing all the hard work and don't ever get to have. That is no, no, no. Stop taking the jobs that are not ours. Stop being responsible for things that are not yours. Stop holding the weight that is not your responsibility to hold. this is a big reflection transformation of what we can tie ourselves down with, because our brains have told us, our society has told us that's the way it was versus the way it can be, and the transformation we're trying to make in our individual lives versus the whole world scale, and understanding it's all taking place at the same time. And we're really looking at the power dynamics here and why those dynamics have the power that they have, and where we're holding on to fear, anxiety, repressed energies that are keeping us from achieving these things. And as we're moving forward, now there's a lot of positive energy this week, but equally there's challenging ones. But when I get into the actual blueprint, not much has changed here. I mean, you are going to have Mercury is moving into Aquarius this week, I think midweek, adding into that communication and making us really look at the outer world versus our roles. What is our role in our relationship? What is our role within the relationships, within our communities, within our committees, within everything that we keep individual to our personal lives? And what about our individual roles have to change in order for us to start seeing these things from a different level and to watch our social transformation take place? But as far as the human blueprint goes, not much really has changed. You still have Chiron, which is on the hyoid bone, which is basically right here in your throat, which has everything to do with swallowing, breathing, speaking. You have Uranus, which is still on the teeth, which is speaking not just with your throat chakra, but it's your teeth. Your teeth are connected with every chakra and dealing with many of your organs. So this is literally a conversation with the body about being able to speak your truth and understanding your truth. A lot of times I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you really looked up where, what teeth connected with what organs and what chakras, that will also tell you about where you have unhealed energies within those chakras. It's one of those like reflexology, like where your feet, the organs in the bottom of the feet will tell you also about this. Your teeth are the same thing. Your teeth are, I mean, think about it. Those of you who followed me for the longest time, I kept saying mom needed to get all of her teeth pulled out because her teeth had an infection that was going directly to the heart. Your teeth have a lot more to do with your health, your chakras, your circulation of the energies in those chakras than what you give them credit for. They're speaking to every part of transformation in your body. It's speaking to every part of circulation of energy within the chakras and the communication. And then it's literally sitting here in your throat chakra about being able to speak that higher truth or lower vibrational truth, choosing on where you are and what you're speaking. You have Jupiter, which is in the thymus. Now we're getting into the thymus and chakras. This is acceptance and forgiveness. It's the higher heart. And you've heard me say a million times the zeal point. You're talking about the hyoid bone right here in your throat, your teeth, which are your mouth, then the thymus. So we're taking a whole circle around the head right here. You might as well just put the zeal point in there. And it's connection with the nervous system and being able to connect with all chakras and the brain according to where your vibrational dimensional energy is. Now when we get into Cancer, Mars is sitting on the adrenal system. You have Libra has Lilith in it, sitting on the adrenal system and the kidneys. You have the South Node, which is sitting on the veins for the abdominal, the liver, the hepatic, the kidneys. Then you have Scorpio, which has Juno and Vista, which is the reproductive energies. You were talking about going straight from the throat down to the sacral chakra and the root chakra, but mainly sacral chakra. What was I just saying in the beginning of this? It's your relationship that you personally have, your role of who you are, the power dynamics of your role in these relationships with the outer world. And all of it has to do with what you're communicating, what you're speaking, how you're speaking it, as well as the throat chakra has to do with not just speaking your truth and being creative with your speaking, but also hearing. What are you hearing as the truths when we're being quiet and we're sitting back and observing? Because as we observe things, we learn so much more than when we jump to action. And then we're getting into understanding. You have the adrenal system itself, because a lot of this is dealing with it, is speaking to the body's function, the regulation, your blood pressure, your metabolism, your hormones, your stress, your pH balance. Then it's speaking to the veins, which is the circulation, the oxygen, and the blood. All of this has a lot to do with, where you are on your vibrational DNA upgrading and healing. There's so much grit in here. But when we get into those lower chakras, again, chakras of lower consciencelessness, you still have Pholos, Pallas, and Mercury, until Mercury moves into Aquarius, which are the knees. Your knees are jealousy, inadequacy, inferiority. Capricorn, not feeling grounded, not feeling secure in its lower vibrations. And when you have knee problems, it's speaking to something in the upper chakras about why you're feeling this uncomfortability. You have Aquarius, which will have Mercury moving into it. You have Claw, which is the shaman, the sun, Pluto, Ceres, all here. What are we nurturing? What are we neglecting? What is the sun illuminating, positive or negative, to us about our groups, our memberships, our committees? Where is the changes not taking place? Pluto is death, decay, and destruction for renewal, rebirth, resurrection. Where is resurrection having a problem being resurrected? And then the communications coming in. This is all in your calves and your ankles. How often do we, twist our ankle? We're moving too fast. We trip. This is not slowing down and seeing the bigger picture. And you have Pisces, which has Saturn, Neptune, Venus, Nessus. Our rules, our walls, our boundaries, our ability to create. What are we breathing into our magic? Your sensitivity of your grief, sorrow, shame, blame, skeletons in the closet, what you're afraid to move forward with. What are you breathing into reality? And that all has to do with your feet. And it's speaking with, are you taking it from the lowest levels of the Pisces energy? Because in chakras, consciencelessness, Pisces would represent murder, resentment, malice, some of the worst cases of humans. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, versus being able to stand in that higher understanding of that true transformation. Every chakra, every chakra and every sign, every planetary energy has positives and negatives. I'm not saying Pisces are bad. I'm saying we're looking at it from the lowest of the lowest perspectives and making sure that we're not allowing ourselves to sit in that lowest of lowest perspectives. We want to be the higher vibrational. We want to see our DNA upgrade. We want to see the age of Aquarius get, its landmark starting the way we want it to, so that we can achieve so much and we can actually create freedom. But we're not going to create it if we're still prone to an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. As much as the human wants to grit onto that, that's still the lowest part of our vibrations. But action still must be served. So where is what's acceptable and what is not? Where is us admitting our worst parts of ourselves and understanding where that's coming from? The anxiety, the fear, the not being able to make the changes. And what is causing us? Why are we still holding on to such weight that's not ours? Why are we allowing it at the same time to be manifested into the realities we're creating? What are we still holding on to? Why? There's so much grit here, and I have to leave it vague like that, because on each person's individual life, when I don't get into like the big world political arena stuff, each one of us have our own things that we're gritting onto, and when I say gritting on, I mean, I often call it vampire syndrome. It's I've said it so many times when I say vampire syndrome, in the sense of, I sunk my teeth into this and I just keep draining it dry, but I don't really want it anymore. Can you please take it from my cold, dead hand? I don't really want it, but I can't seem to give it up. That's an addiction. Where are we having problems with addictions that we don't think of as addiction? Where have we been trapped into these addictions, these ideas, these perspectives, these society norms, these roles and dynamics that we allow ourselves and these relationships to still play a woe is me to? You're the most powerful thing ever. Why are we holding on to things of low vibrational in this energy? Why are we still playing these roles? What is keeping us playing these roles and dissecting these changes? This is the important thing. Who and how and what are you identifying with, and why? And then how does that play in your self-respect? How does that play in your dignity? How does that play in the lack of dignity? It's very complex, but it's very illuminating and very reflection energy right now. That's why it's called the Age of Aquarius. We're pouring the waters of illumination down into us, and we're seeing illumination. But what are we vibrationally ready for in our illumination as we start to ascend? Where are we taking that? There's so much there for us to sit there and ponder and meditate on and work with. Just in this week with the new moon, because new moons are new beginnings, setting a new direction, a new milestone, even though I was saying it kind of has something to do with this whole year. But this is allowing you to really stop, focus, and replant the direction of where you want this year to go, where you want the rest of your life to go. And what role have you been playing versus the one you want? And really identifying what has to change in order for us to make in our individual lives these things happen. Health wise, like I said with the blueprint, understanding what our chakras are talking to us about, and where we're having unhealed energies within the actual body versus the energy itself. Now, as I get into the astrology for the week, hold on, let me have a sip of my coffee here. All week long, we have a grand trine. Now, near the end of the week, that grand trine is breaking. Grand trines are positive energies. It's kind of like an opportunity, making you feel comfortable that you are capable of doing something. You have Uranus, which is in that second house, which is speaking to Pluto, the sun, Cardi Claw, and Mercury as it moves in the later part of the week. And then the South Node. So this is your outer world, your outer authority, your rules of society, our honor, our reputation, our prestige, the authority of the outer world, how it is playing to identifying if you're in your power, because that's the second house in Taurus, your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem, your position of power, possession and position of power, by standing in that self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. That's where your manifestation comes from. Standing in if you're feeling the dignity or dignified, or are you feeling manipulated? And then it's speaking to the South Node in Aquarius. This has everything to do with our moment to moment, our daily routines, our mundane tasks, your energy diet that you are eating throughout the week. And I say that in an energy diet, but I don't mean just food, the people, places, things that you are attached to, that you are committed to, that you communicate with, that you are taking part with. That is all energy that you are feeding on, which is also feeding on you. It is speaking about the vibrational frequency in which you are living your moment to moment. This is one of the biggest places of where manifestation takes place. The people, the places, the things of energy that you are taking part in, allowing it to take part in your life, connecting it right there with the outer world to reflect right back to you the authority that you either put into your life or you don't. The power of being in that power dynamic or not. Now, this is a positive energy, but it may not hit necessarily positively for everyone, because some people are going to have to see a little bit of a slap down of where they're not doing it right. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It's trying to teach you how to maneuver, shift, and change. But if you are doing it right, it's giving you an opportunity to reflect out to that world, the outer world, where you're starting to plant your flag, where you're starting to say, this is mine. This is, the reality I'm creating, and I'm in control of it. And let me show the outer world what I bring to the role, what I bring to the picture. And this is really what it's coming down to. Every one of us are here for a special reason. So what are you here for? What are you bringing to the table? Why are you getting lost in the relationships and the dynamic power struggles? Because that's all that it is. We shouldn't be playing competition with anyone. It's about us acknowledging what we bring to the table and only focusing on that, being who and what we are and showing our power in that. And if it's not something that's of that, stop focusing on it. Stop giving it your attention. Because this is about how we could change in our individual worlds. Now, you also have Jupiter, which is getting along great with the sun and Cardi Claw. So this is your inner emotional security, because that's ultimately what Cancer is. It's your home, but your inner emotional security versus three-dimensional inner emotional security, bills being paid, the roof over your head, being able to know you have a job and feeling secure, versus soulfully knowing you can't take any power away from me. You can't take anything away from me. My soul is divine and everlasting. And I come from that strength of that. You can't alter it. All I can do is redefine it and transform it into more or less, bigger or smaller, of what I see of myself. And it is speaking with the sun and Cardi Claw in that 11th house. Your goals, your dreams, your ambitions. Who are you? What is your identity? What are you bringing to the table? Mars is getting along great with the North Node. So is Jupiter. So this is your inner warrior. And your abundance, both speaking with the North Node, with Neptune, and with Nessus, about making the changes. What do we have to do to actually make the changes come forward? But you have some superpowers this week. Lilith is having a superpower conversation with everybody. She is in that 7th house. She is speaking of the relationship and the role that you are keeping. And why are you getting lost in the role? Why are you getting lost in, perfect example, relationship? You should not be, this is me and George. You know, this is Michelle and Christine, or Michelle and Matt. Michelle is her own individual person. Matt is his own individual person. You are not a dynamic duo. Why are you getting lost in the roles? You are a unique individual. Do not let that power struggle, that dynamic situation. There's nothing here that connects you with anybody. You're not supposed to be connected, remember? We're connected to everybody, but we shouldn't have attachments to anything. You are your own individual. And these relationships are speaking with Saturn, Venus, Neptune in the 12th house, our grief, sorrow, shame, blame, skeletons in the closet. What have we not healed? Well, we had not breathed into magic. Speaking with Uranus, your individuality, your power to be in the power of you, position of power. Mars and the South Node are also speaking. This is your 4th house. No, yeah, your 4th house and your daily routines. What serves you and what doesn't? Because you have, in the challenges this week, that Lilith is still challenging very much. She's challenging Chiron, the wounded healer, that you can believe in yourself and you can step into that character, that you can become it instead of feeling the wounds and still laying in bed. I was saying last week, no action is still an action. No decision is still a decision. Lilith is asking you, where's your identity? Are you going to stand in this power? Speaking into Lilith and Jupiter. Speaking into your communication. Abundantly making it up close and personal in your life and making the changes. Speaking to Mars, believing in your inner warrior, your inner soul. You have Mars that is not getting along with Chiron or Lilith. Your warrior, your identity, and what you're comfortable with. You have a yod this week also, almost, of the South Node, Neptune, and the Sun, Cardi Claw, and Pluto. Where do you not believe in yourself? Where are you still afraid to illuminate into the ascending energy that you are? Where have you not followed through? You're still having anxiety and doubt. Stop. This is about believing in ourselves and moving forward with our ascension by understanding the evaluation of where we've had problems. I love you guys. I will see you next week. Big love.